Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm so excited to bring you a review of The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. So this book obviously was an arc of this was sent to me by the publisher, by Tor, to read and review for you guys, and I kind of knew right away that I was going to want to do a full review on this because I have read Alix Harrow's other books and I have loved them, so I just kind of knew where this was going to be going. So here we are. The Everlasting by Alix Harrow. This is the cover of the book. It is so stunning. I just want to start there. I think this is so beautiful. So this will be out on October 28th, and especially for a fall October book, I think the cover is absolutely stunning and really fits the vibe, not only of the season, but of the overall story. And I just wanted to start there because I think this is so beautiful. So if you didn't know, Alix Harrow is also the author of Starling House, The Once and Future Witches, and The 10,000 Doors of January, all of which I have read and loved, so I knew I was gonna like this. She's also done some short stories and some novellas, but those ones I have not read. This is also kind of an expansion on her short story, Six Deaths of the Saint, which was featured in a short story collection. I can't remember what it was called, but I actually never read that. I was always interested in it, but just kind of never got around to it, and I am kind of glad I didn't, because I went into this almost knowing nothing and ended up really liking it. So yeah, if you've read that short story and you were like, oh man, I want more, then here's more. So I'm actually gonna put this here to the side for you guys to look at, just so that I don't have to hold it up for the whole video. So there it is for you. So let's get into what this book is about, because the title is giving pretty much nothing away. So this is a kind of medieval and modern story. So this follows our main character Owen, who is a professor at this university, and he is endlessly fascinated with Una Everlasting, who is this character from the history of this country that Owen lives in. And we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty later, but I want like kind of the overarching theme or overarching synopsis here. So we have Owen, who is endlessly fascinated with Una, and he one day stumbles upon, well, not stumbles upon, it kind of magically appears to him, this book, in which is blank. And he is tasked with going back and recording her story. The story that he already knows, but now this book that is supposedly telling her story is now blank. So let's get into kind of more of what this is about. So Owen, our main character, it starts with him as a professor. It's one small chapter, and then we go back in time to when he was just becoming a student. So he's becoming a student. His country is it's trying to defend its borders. It's fighting this big war, and he feels a connection with Una, who is basically the Rosie the Riveter in advertisements around his country. And so because he's so obsessed with her, he feels this draw to enlist in the army and go fight in the war. So it follows him for a little bit in the war. He ends up, shockingly, somehow this studious kid ends up being a fantastic marksman, and he becomes super important to his regiment, or whatever you would call it, and he ends up on the front lines. So we see a little bit of that, and then we see him come home with horrific trauma and horrific PTSD. It is kind of briefly mentioned, but it's not something that's like glossed over either. It's just not his full story, which I really liked, that it wasn't kind of like what made him a person. It was just kind of part of who he was. So he comes back from war and he goes back to university to finish. So when he comes back, he writes his whole like dissertation, whatever, on Una and this story. So in a way, this is how the book chooses him. So then this is where our story begins, really, as now we're back to the beginning of when he finds this book. So we find out this book has been sent to him by what is essentially the president of this country, and she's telling him that he needs to write the story because of how good Una is at rallying forces, at becoming a symbol of this country, and kind of like an Uncle Sam-ish kind of way, if Uncle Sam was like a real person, which maybe he was too, I don't know. But anyway, kind of an Uncle Sam-like figure. In fact, now that I'm thinking about it, almost exactly like an Uncle Sam figure, because he was also on a lot of those army posters, like, we want you, you know. What happens is Owen is sent back in time through centuries to find Una, to follow her, to record her story and how she dies, so that it can become an important part of this country's rise. I'm obviously not going to be giving away any spoilers during this review because the book's literally not even out yet. So I'm going to try and keep everything on the down low. So first, I want to get into what I thought was the most intriguing part of this book. It's something that you kind of think of when you're young and you're like, this would be interesting to do, kind of you have to learn the rules before you can break them kind of thing. So this book is written in all 3 points of view. Not like the point of view of Owen, the point of view of Una. Yes, in that way, but we have a first person point of view. I, you, me. Or I, me, she. And we have a second person point of view. You. Listen, I don't think I've ever read, outside of like an epistolary novel, a story told in second person through them talking about this other person. You did this, you did that. And then we also have third person, which is they did this. You know, it's not from Owen or Una's point of view, it is from our outside point of view. They did this, they did that. And the reason for this, I think, is kind of genius. So this whole story is a story, a fairy tale. Not a fairy tale in the sense of it being fake, but a fairy tale in the sense of this is a story that is supposed to bring people together. It is going to be told through time and all of that stuff. So a lot of the points of view are different. We have kind of a fourth wall breaking moment where we switch point of views, and we have Owen telling Una, like, in the text, you take it from here, and it would be best if you finished the rest of this story in particular. And I think that is such a genius and creative idea, and something I never would have thought of, but like, it's just so experimental in a way that works really well, especially with this story. And I just can't believe how well it was done. It was done in a way that, like, you notice it, but you don't, it's not like confusing. You're not like, who are we talking about? Like, it just totally makes sense in your head. It's super easy to follow, and it was just really, really well done. I just can't say anything else other than that. I really just thought that was super fun and intriguing, and I think this might start a new kind of wave, not wave, but it might open people up more to the idea of stuff like this and being creative and experimental with stuff, and I just really like that. So yeah. The other thing that I really want to mention is the politics and the overall theme. So there is a whole smaller storyline of Owen finding out who he is and where he's from, and him not being like everybody else in this country. He has a different skin color and he comes from somewhere else, and that obviously plays a huge part in this story. But what I really liked about this was the overall theme and the stance that it took on government propaganda, and how the stories of a country and the history books and the stories that we take and internalize. For example, America, you have kind of like, maybe like the Boston Tea Party would be a good example. You have this story and none of us were there, but it's kind of like, people use it a lot as like, you know, as like a gotcha against England. It's super funny. It's, you know, it's kind of empowering almost in a way where like you kind of feel like a little bit of a badass. At least like you feel like your country is a little bit of a badass. And this kind of takes that and says, you don't know that that's real. You don't know how much of that was formed into what it is, was pushed and pulled and prodded at until it became the perfect piece of propaganda. And I really like the way that it wasn't in your face about that. It wasn't super, super obvious, but it was very, very clear. It also kind of makes you consider this propaganda along with army recruitment, because obviously Owen sees these posters, he's absolutely enamored by Una, and that causes him to enlist in the army. So a lot of this, you know, like the Boston Tea Party thing again, you take the Boston Tea Party and you can turn it into these posters and make it seem cool and fun. Maybe not cool, cool wouldn't be the right word for back then, but you know what I mean. And make it seem interesting and like you're doing something for your country in what would be considered a good way. You're doing a good deed. And how that rewriting of history can be turned into another piece of propaganda to just cause death and destroy things. Finally, we're going from politics to romance. I want to talk about the romance in this book. This is going to be, I'm gonna stand by this, this is gonna be a controversial book. Not controversial like woke versus not woke. It's going to be, people are either going to love the romance, or I don't think they'll hate it, but I think people are going to have to dismantle a lot of their ideas about society, and it's going to be very uncomfortable for people. We have Una, who is constantly referenced as big, tall, muscular, and she is not, for lack of a better phrase, she's not like other girls. She is a fighter, she is a knight, and she will go to war for her queen. On the other hand, we have Owen, who is very soft, he is very scholarly, he is very gentle and kind, and it's obviously very switched. And I think it's gonna make a lot of people uncomfortable, but when I say this is one of the most romantic books I have ever read in my entire life, it reminded me a lot of This Is How You Lose the Time War, in the way that it is so romantic and so beautiful, it makes your chest hurt. And it is so painful. I think I wrote in my Goodreads review something along the lines of Alix Harrow was just like playing tetherball with my heart the whole time, because we have this character dying over and over and over again. And so it just feels like getting punched over and over and over again, but it is so beautiful and the writing is so gorgeous that it makes your chest hurt, and it's so impressive when people can manage to do that. I will never be able to understand it. But yeah, the only thing I dislike about this book is that it came out 2.5 years after I got married. I pulled inspiration from my vows from This Is How You Lose the Time War, and I wish I'd had this too, because I could have used some inspiration, because it's just that romantic and poetic. It's beautiful. So in conclusion, I gave this book 5 stars. Obviously. I absolutely loved it. It changed my life, and it made me reconsider things, and it kind of makes things click in a different way that maybe other books didn't, about propaganda, about love, about being human, and I just absolutely adore it. If you are able to, you should definitely pre-order this book. You should request it from your library, request your library purchase it for their shelves, for their collection. It is absolutely fantastic, and I think a lot of you are going to really, really love it. It is a perfect fall, wintertime book. It is so cozy, and it's just wonderful. So I highly, highly recommend this book. I hope you enjoyed this review, and yeah, I suppose that's it. I will see you in the next one.